Hello everyone, welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you which is the best location in Haga Basin for your endgame base. This is of course my personal opinion. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why it is the best location, as well as one disadvantage, possibly two, depending on your allegiances. But most importantly, I am also going to show you how I go by getting all the resources and components that I still need even when I reach endgame or reach tier 6. And the best location, in my opinion, is anywhere around this mountain. This is in the eastern shield wall. Now let's get the subjective reason out of the way first. And that is just the view that you get when you are around this cliffside. My personal base is located here. The view is fantastic. I can see the desert, the Haga Rift on the left, and I can also see a little bit of Mesa Terrell on the right. So with the subjective reason out of the way, the most important one are the resources. All around this mountain, you are going to find a lot of aluminum, which is something that you're gonna need to make Duraluminum, which is still needed for a lot of things in endgame, such as missiles for your ornithopters. You also have a lot of fuel cells, plastone, and all of that stuff. And it's very easy to get. Whenever I need something, I just take my buggy. I don't even need to go all the way around the mountain. It is enough for me to just go to one end and fill up the entire buggy. And most of the time, I don't farm just one thing. If I'm going out with a buggy, I will pick up fuel cells as well as aluminum and maybe even a couple of bodies, because you have a couple of enemy camps, which is pretty easy to get half a dozen to a dozen bodies if you want to go all the way around. Occasionally, if I just need bodies, I sometimes replace the cataract in the buggy for the rocket launcher, because it's just quick to kill the enemies that way. And it's kind of fun to change things a little bit once in a while. So there's plenty of all of that around in this mountain. The next thing that you're still gonna need during endgame is Cobalt Paste, which you're gonna need Ericite crystals in Haga Rift. For that, what I usually do is fly with my scout ornithopter to this area of Haga Rift. I don't even go to the beginning of Haga Rift, just here halfway, and then I assemble my buggy there. And I just drive the buggy through all the charm mineral facilities and just harvest all the crystals that are accessible by the buggy. I don't even bother to go into those caves, which are full of crystals. However, you have to go in on foot. You cannot drive the buggy in. There is absolutely no need to do that. Just using the buggy and just harvesting those 2 to 3 nodes outside, and sometimes there's also 1 or 2 or 3 inside that you can actually drive through and exit through another level. All of that is enough to fill up your buggy. And all I do is basically start from one end and just go west. And by the time you finish with the last one, you're pretty much near one of the entrances or one of the slopes to this mountain. You're basically driving all the way to Pinnacle Station. You pass the Pinnacle Station, and then there's going to be a slope that you can drive up. You will see the Atreides stronghold to your left, and just basically go towards that, and you are above the mountain. The next thing that you're gonna need are those jasmine crystals to make Duraluminum. What I used to do was the same thing. I will fly the scout ornithopter to this island here, which is the closest one with no radiation. This is right where the edge of Aquilon is. And again, I assemble my buggy there. This has a time limit because of the radiation, so you cannot spend too much time in there. And what I like to do is hit those islands, the small ones, not the large ones, because the small ones, usually you will find a cluster of crystals in one location. For example, this particular rock here, the one right across the wreck of Aurea, you will find, I think, the most, like a 5 or 6, and you can just drive in, harvest all of that. After that, I hit a couple of other of the smaller islands where there's always usually 2 to 3 nodes all together really close. I don't go to the large islands because they are more spread out, you have to spend a little bit more time driving from one node to another, and that takes a lot of time and you might run out depending on your radiation suit. So I never get to fill out the entire buggy, but definitely half, and then just basically drive back to this island and then continue up following this island. That is a safe path from the worm, and then from the very last island you can absolutely make it with the buggy to this island in Misa Terrell. Then you just continue following this path of Misa Terrell, and there is going to be a ramp here that allows you to go up. There's going to be a couple of twists and turns in this area, but as long as you mark your location here at the top and you follow that, you will be able to make it all the way up here. That is what I used to do. I now have the carrier, so I just fly the buggy there and I land on this big island first, and I then go to a couple more islands and then just fly the buggy back. There's also a couple of spots of flower sand just right below, so it's very easy to fly down, grab that, and fly back up. And a few other things that you're still going to need at this stage are a lot of components, like for example diamondine dust, carbine scraps, all of that stuff, and that is really close. Mr. Terrell is just right there. What I usually do even now is every time that I go out the map, when I come back, instead of coming back from the top, I sometimes coming from the side here, the northwest, and the reason is because I like to make a stop at the very top of Mr. Terrell. There is a body there that you can loot. Now, if for any reason you still need things like copper, iron or steel or anything like that, it is still pretty easy. I used to just drive off the cliff, which is why I built this section. It was just so that I could drive the buggy off the cliff and drive across to the Western Vermilius Gap. That is where a lot of the iron and copper and all that stuff is, and it's a very easy drive just right across, very quick. There's also no quicksand across in this area, and then you go back up using the same ramp on the west side. If you are aligned with a treatise, then your quartermaster is just nearby, plus you also have a couple of houses nearby, I think 3 of them. And this is where the disadvantage is if you're aligned with Harkonnen, because now you have to cross the entire Haga Basin, or maybe just go out of the map and back in on the other side. The other disadvantage of building in this area is that you don't have a lot of real estate, so you will have to be creative when it comes to building your base, because it's not very flat, so building becomes a little bit difficult. I am aware that this area is pretty small, so not everyone may have an empty spot in their servers to build. So as a second alternative is the area below the hill. It is also very flat. It is very easy to build. You can see a couple of bases there. One of them belongs to one of my viewers. This is also a very good location if you cannot find a spot around the hill area. You do have a lot of water in this area, so if you need water in a pinch, it is very easy to go and grab. Another location that is also very good is this mountain here. The building area is also very small. Chances are that the spot is already taken, but if it's not taken, that is also another good location. Anyway, just wanted to share my opinion when it comes to base location, as well as show you guys how I go by farming some resources. Hopefully any of this information is helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, enjoy the game, and I'll see you all in the next video.